really looking forward to once again establishing a very exciting, innovative form of football that, quite frankly, you've never seen before. Because so much has changed in terms of the use of digital. Social media didn't even exist 20 years ago, and ways of distributing and ways of interest in terms of the various devices, which were not there either. But what has not changed is the love of football. That has not changed.
This is the future. This is not the past.
The new XFL will kick off in 2020.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
It's still football, but it's professional football reimagined.
This is our moment, our story to tell. This is history begun.
This is the XFL!
Welcome, football fans. This is the week of December 9th, 2018. This is the road to 2020, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Vince.
This monumental week is in the books. Woo! After we attended the Cities and Stadiums press event, now it is time to break each city down and talk about what comes next in the process of reimagining football. This is episode 46, the great XFL 8. Jake, Vince, I went to the big press event earlier this week. We did a bonus episode. Bryant and I discussed and ran down everything that was said and went on that day. Now you guys are here for this traditional episode to talk some more about it, but in greater detail. We could dive into some specifics. We just kind of recapped what happened at the event. Before we get into everything, I do want to get just overall quickie review, a Reader's Digest version from each of you. So we'll start with you, Jake. Your overall thoughts of the press event announcing the cities and stadiums earlier in the week.
I mean, my overall impressions about it, I thought it was very good. You know, it was all thriller, no filler. You know, it was the perfect length. It didn't drag on. You got to know the information that you expected to get at an event like this, and I left pleased.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it might have dragged on for Oliver Luck. He did have to, I don't know if you heard, he had to stand up for almost 2 hours, no water, just answering questions. They were throwing questions at him left and right. And I meant to say also salutations and welcome to the show, Jake. Hope you had a great week. Biggest week in XFL history, at least since the rebirth in January, right? I'm not wrong about that.
No, you know, like you and Bryant were talking about a couple days ago. 44 weeks, we've waited for this moment, so much to discuss, and we're going to start unpacking it this week, but that's why we have weeks and weeks to go until kickoff weekend, February 8th, 2020.
It's like getting a bunch of Christmas presents, and you want to play with them all, but you got to go one at a time.
Right now.
Yeah, we have so much to do here. So, Jake, man, welcome to the biggest week of the year. Everybody on social media has been blowing up and hitting us up and interacting. It's been amazing. At XFL Show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of you who are getting super pumped this week, obviously with the big announcement. We've enjoyed interacting with you. Cannot wait to go down this road with you to 2020. Don't forget, you could always call in 724-565-4XFL on the XFL fan line. We can even play your message right here on the show. Vince, biggest week in XFL Reimagine, Reborn history. How did you enjoy it? I saw you were on our YouTube channel unboxing a pretty neat bag of gimmicks.
Yeah, I got to thank you for that. You picked me up a special swag bag from the press conference. You know, I was really disappointed that I couldn't make it out there, but I feel like I was there. I came home with the goods.
You did.
And I must say, you know, a lot of information coming out in this press conference, and I was thoroughly sassified with the presser. A couple things raised some eyebrows, and we're going to get into it tonight.
Oh, absolutely, we will. And yeah, that swag bag, I was able to score for Vince. I got an extra. They did have cool swag bags there for all the media and attendees at the press event at MetLife Stadium, but the XFL also did send out some swag bags to fans and that's really cool of them, kind of like early Christmas presents to get people hyped up. And we were able to actually score some extras for you as well. So listen throughout the show, because coming up at the end of this show, we're going to tell you how you can win, how you could score yourself one of those awesome XFL bags full of cool XFL swag that you saw Vince on our YouTube channel unboxing earlier in the week. So listen up. We'll tell you the details on how you can win that coming up later on in the show. Without further ado, I'm ready to, like you said, Jake, unpack this all and dive deep into the details. We only scratched the surface with that bonus episode with me and Brian. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's get it started, because there's a lot to talk about, and even something brand new out of left field coming out this week that we're gonna mention at least.
Yes, very interesting development outside the XFL. We'll have to talk about a little bit. It'll be a part of our cover two.
Going for two. Go for two and the lead.
All right, first part of our cover two, the reimagining test, I guess in Mississippi you would call it, that the XFL was conducting, ended this past Friday, with a test game. Now, many of you might have seen this YouTube video they put out. They also put out some social media quickie videos, 15, 20 seconds, just showing what was going on in Mississippi with the NJCAA, the junior colleges helping out the XFL, testing out different rules. But they did put out an extended video. I'm hoping they re-release it. It was very informative and very interesting. Maybe the most interesting thing, I think, in terms of videos, guys, that they've put out. I don't know if, Vince, did you see the video? It kind of came and was taken down real quick.
I did not get a chance to watch it, but you have filled me in a little bit. I got some of these notes written down here. Very, very interesting.
Yes.
And this is what it's all about.
And this is what I'm all about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all excited for the cities and the business end of the XFL, of course, and the TV deal, but the actual game and what the tweaks are going to be, what was going on in Mississippi, that's the very interesting stuff to me as a football freak.
We're the XFL, they're trying to reimagine the game. We've been talking about it since day one. We've been talking about how this league has to be different in order to succeed. They got to give the fans what they want. They got to reimagine the game, and they're coming up with different ways to do it, and right now they're testing them out down in Mississippi.
Yeah, and that whole test went throughout the week, ended on Friday. Jake, did you check the YouTube video out at all? Were you able to catch it?
It was down already whenever I tried. Now, you saw it, and I want to ask you, do you think that this video was taken down because, the XFL, they don't want to show their hands too early and perhaps tip off other leagues that may launch before them?
I don't know. That could be something. Maybe it is very informative. There's a lot in this, and we're going to talk about it all. Everything. I took notes on it, or maybe they're just re-editing. I don't know, one thing. Who knows? Maybe it'll be back up by the time the episode drops.
Maybe.
Yeah, every football Sunday, 7 a.m. Eastern. If you're listening to the show right when it drops, maybe that YouTube video is back up with the 2-minute video of the XFL showing what went on in Mississippi during their test game. But if it's not up, this is what that video kind of specifically detailed, what might be considered and what was being tested and worked on throughout the week during these reimagining tests in Mississippi with the community colleges. First, number one thing was a running clock. A running clock that only would stop in the traditional football sense within the last 2 minutes of halves, guys. So they tested out basically a soccer clock with American football, Vince.
Yeah, and we've heard from the very beginning saying that the game is going to be completed under 2 hours.
Less stall.
More ball. Oliver Luck did say at the press conference under 3 hours. I don't know if he's backtracking a little bit, or maybe the results of some of this testing. But yeah, it's very interesting. You got to like it. Nobody wants a long, drung out game. Some of these NFL games, they're going on 3.5, 4 hours sometimes. And catering to young people who don't have long attention spans.
Especially
maybe this is what you got to do.
Those Sunday night games too. I mean, they are excruciating.
Oh, it's tough. And you think about, you brought up, like a European football contest where, those are running clocks.
Soccer.
Yes. Yeah. Soccer games. It's a 90-minute ball game. You got maybe 20 minutes for halftime, a little bit of stoppage time. That thing ain't stopping for nothing. It's over in 2 hours. Boom, you're done.
I was going to say, if they're going with this running clock, which I would not argue against, do you think they would only do 2 halves in this?
Oh, and not quarters?
Yes.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any reason for it.
I was going to say, I don't know why you would, why would you need quarter breaks if you're going to have this running clock?
Maybe, I don't know if they were tweaking. See, the running clock is what they, in the video, we didn't obviously watch this test game. If they tested out final 2 minutes of the half or two minutes of the quarter were the ones that stopped. But yeah, maybe it'll just be 2 halves. I think that might turn some people off. That's just kind of an odd thing.
What?
2 halves instead of quarters. Every major sport except hockey and college basketball is quarters, right? Or I guess baseball has their innings, but
right. Well,
football fans are so used to quarters.
Well, college basketball, maybe moving the quarters sooner than later.
No one wants to hold up, when you're going into the second half, walking out on the field a 2. You want to hold up a 4
and promote peace, which ain't a bad idea. But whenever I'm assuming that they're going to have a faster play clock to go along with this, and if they do, I don't
25 seconds.
I don't think anybody's really going to care.
Yeah, we've been told 25 seconds. Also, interestingly enough, this wasn't in the video, but Pro Football Talk did report that a designated ball spotter was being discussed and used in these tests, where referees had nothing to do with spotting the ball. They just worry about calling the plays, moving the action along, while designated ball spotters are out there running and putting the ball down in the spot where it belongs every play efficiently and quickly. So if teams are going to be moving fast, there's going to be someone having the ball spotted there for them. I think that's a great idea.
Let me briefly go back to this clock situation. Okay, a little out there, but hear me out. What if they still did 4 15-minute quarters, but it was just like a game of Madden, where like 1 second wasn't really 1 second? It just went really fast.
Just speed up the clock to extra 15 seconds. I don't know if you could do that in a non-video game setting there, Jake. So the running clock was one of the things tested in Mississippi this past week. Another one, Canadian football thing here, the 1 yard neutral zone. An entire yard between offensive line and defensive line there, and even all the way through, out to the receivers and DBs. One thing I'm not a fan of in the CFL, I feel like this is a safety measure that they're going to test. They want to see just how much more safe it makes the game. I'm hoping, this might sound a little violent of me, but I'm hoping that the results don't show that it's any safer, because those mini collisions and also being right up against each other, I think you could tell the difference watching a CFL game versus regular American football.
Well, I can see your point there. I could see the player safety aspect of it, but remember, we are reimagining the game. Maybe this is what it needs to be.
Yeah, if the data suggests after they do these tests, and that they're going to analyze everything from safety to how it looks to aesthetic to game flow. If they see this 1 yard neutral zone as being that much safer, then of course that's the way to go. But I'm kind of hoping against hope it doesn't. So they keep players right up on the line as a former high school offense and defensive lineman, Jake.
Do you think that this would aid the offense, which something obviously any league would be looking for? More scoring. You have less time. You got, too many Mississippis before you get to the quarterback if you back them off a whole yard.
Hard enough to rush the passer, with no neutral zone buffer.
I mean, you got a yard start, to propel maybe not propel yourself.
I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here and say that, if you're a defensive lineman, you're off the ball, you're off the line of scrimmage, the offensive lineman can't get his hands on you real quick and hold you to death. So immediately, at least, and you got time to set up your pass rush and move. So I think it helps both. I think it can go either way.
Well, here's maybe something that will give a little bit back to the defensive linemen, because I was looking at the highlights and it seemed like players were down, but there was a graphic in that YouTube video taken off the internet by the XFL that did say, had Doug Whaley saying, how much more violent would it be if offensive linemen weren't in a three-point stance? No three-point stance for offensive linemen being experimented with, Vince. What do you think of that notion?
It's going to make the running game very. It's going to make the running game very interesting. Those. You combine these two rules here, and a third and short. I mean, that's not what you grew up with. That this screams. That they're built for a passing league. That's what this is about.
This is going to be a passing league for sure. I agree with that, because that's one thing that the original XFL wasn't, right? It was tough to find those guys lighting it up through the air. Tommy Maddox came on, but actually before him it was more Jeff Brom was kind of the man throwing the ball really well, but not the stats, at least didn't compare to what you see in the NFL these days. The XFL is going to want to have some great passing attacks. That's what puts butts in seats, Jake. No three-point stance for offensive linemen. Could you see that working and being something to enforce?
I'm trying to picture it in my mind, and it looks like everybody's just standing around with with their hands on their hips, like they're waiting in line for a bowl of soup or something. That would be very different, kind of like the two halves. You may get your average fan, channel surfing. They see it in it. They think they know what it is, but it just looks a little bit off, or maybe they don't want to stick around.
Well, if you're watching a lot of college football today, it's with spread offenses and sub packages, there aren't too many people in 3-point stances anyway.
Guards are.
It's some of these teams that go shotgun every play. The guards really don't even need to do that. I don't think.
Yeah, it might be something, at least in new football, that's maybe unnecessary. The 3-point stance, like the 350-pound nose tackle, might be like a dinosaur.
Yeah. If anything, it's going to promote better posture.
That is true. Less back issues for offensive linemen, hopefully. And also, so special teams, wasted plays, a big thing that Oliver Lux talked about. They don't want to have plays that are wasted, no fluff. You got penalties on like every punt return in the NFL these days. They want to make those mean something and impact the game. They want kickoffs to impact the game. So some changes and ideas they have. A 5-yard halo on punt returns with no fair catch. I really feel like that is going to put a lot of value on punts and make punts more exciting, and seems like an easy thing the NFL should have thought of years ago.
Yeah, and this is something they could test out. In the original XFL, there was no fair catches at all.
But there was no 5-yard halo
extremely
either.
Dangerous. Here you got 5 yards, which ain't a whole lot, but at least it gives you a chance to do something. It maybe at least to fall on the ground if you think you're going to get hurt real bad.
Yeah, I mean, you got 5 yards, but, somebody running downfield full sprint, if they time that correctly, that's still going to be a wallop on you.
Oh, that's a lot. You got to be a real fast dude. You got to be running a 4.2 to really wallop a guy 5 yards without him being able to juke.
I think it still happened.
I mean, these punt returners, I'm hoping, are going to have the agility to, with 5-yard buffer, guy coming at you full speed, be able to evade. That's the whole experiment, though, right? They want to see if that is enough to give them room to avoid that crazy collision. I'm interested in that for sure. I think that sounds right to me. 5 yards, that's an Oklahoma drill. No one's getting, unless it's helmet to helmet. I mean, that you should be fine getting hit by a guy who's 5 yards on a punt. Also, a 5-yard buffer on kickoffs instead of the huge gap and players running full speed, smashing into each other on kickoffs. You decrease that distance, you decrease the impact. What do you think of a 5-yard buffer on kickoffs, Vince?
So I'm having a hard time understanding this one. It's 5. The players are going to be 5 yards further back.
The kicking team will be 5 yards from the receiving team. Instead of the 10-yard
it's
gap.
It's only going to be 5?
It'll be a 5-yard gap. And also something that was brought up that they might have been working on. I didn't see the video of this. I don't know if this was even on the YouTube video that the XFL put out. But one notion we heard coming from Mississippi was that the kicking team would have to wait for the ball to be caught or touched before they could pursue and run down the field.
Holy smokes.
That's a A lot of green to cover.
That's a hell of a lot of green there. That just seems like it's gonna be too much for the return team there. But hey, that's why you test it out. That's why this laboratory that they have going on in Mississippi is so important.
Yeah, this really sounds like an alpha that that they're trying to run out here. I do not like Vince. I don't like that waiting to catch the ball before you can take off. I mean, if that's the case, why don't they just give the receiving team the ball on the goal line, and then the referee, shoots a pistol and everybody takes off then.
Well, I am in favor of a pistol being shot to start the game. I will say that.
I don't know. We know we don't want those hard collisions, but only 5 yards from the from the kicking team and the receiving team. Yeah, I don't know. Those are going to be big rushes, I would think, unless you try to pooch the ball over top, and we don't know if there's going to be onside kicks. That's an option. I don't know.
I think that sounds pretty exciting. You got to hold your blocks a long time if it's only 5-yard distance there. The waiting for the ball to be touched or caught, I'd have to see that because I can't fathom without. It's just something we've never seen before. I would be in favor too of maybe pushing the kickoff back even further and making the kickers kick it further because these guys are just kicking it out of the stadium now, Vince.
Yeah, I mean, how many returns are there really in the NFL? And it is just a big waste of time. You kick it off. Sometimes there's even a commercial break.
I'm just happy the XFL isn't giving up tapping out on the kickoff like the AAF did, Jake. We want to keep the foot in football.
Yeah, you need kickoffs like we're pretty sure you need 4 quarters. That's something that you need in the game.
So these were just some of the tweaks that we heard about in the YouTube video and also some reports coming out of the Mississippi tests that the XFL was running. These were being conducted and held and run by Senior Vice President of Football Operations Doug Whaley, the former GM of the Bills, of course, and Director of Football Operations Sam Schwartzstein. And they put out some Twitter and Instagram videos as well and Facebook for the XFL's social media. Just real quick, short, just explaining what they were doing there, working with the junior colleges and talking about how it was all about safety, appearance, and the flow of the game. And it's basically a football laboratory that they created down there in Mississippi, and more are going to come. Vince, did you hear they're going to get together with the Spring League, which popped up last year? Johnny Manziel was a part of that thing. The XFL partnering up with them to experiment and reimagine the game of football.
I did hear that. Yeah, as much experimentation as you can do, the better. You don't just start a high stakes game in Monopoly and come up with a rule that says every time you roll a 6 you're going to get $500 without knowing the consequences of it. And here they're coming up with new rules to make the game better than it already is, and they're testing them out, and they got a whole year to do it. That's what I can't wait to see all this unfold.
A whole year-long preseason, Jake. Jake, we got to figure out a way to sneak into one of these football labs, one of these test games. I want to see one of them so bad, right? I need to know what that kickoff looks like. What do you say we go down to Texas for the Spring League and watch some of those?
We just need to get really good at, cooking hot dogs and hamburgers and get in there with the concession stand and then, catch a view.
But yeah, pose as a stadium worker. Maybe those games will be open to the public though. The spring league. We'll see how that goes. The XFL took this YouTube video down, and we said earlier maybe that was to maybe not tip their hand. Vince, do you think these test games will be open to the public? Should they be open to the public as they go through more of them with the junior colleges and the spring league and other partners?
No, I don't think so. I don't think the public needs to hear anything about it until a lot later on, until we get closer. Now, things you do want to unveil is maybe your players, your coaches for the teams, as soon as you can announce those. But you don't want to be giving away any of these rules. You certainly don't want to see people testing them out, because what if some of the stuff you're testing is no good? And we know it's all about the quality of the play. That is the most important thing in this league. It's been talked about ad nauseum. We heard it mentioned in the press conference. You don't want to show, even though you're testing out these new rules, you're testing them out with guys at junior colleges, not necessarily players that are going to be in your league. And so maybe the quality of the play isn't going to be that good. You don't want to give anybody any idea that this is not going to be a success.
Well, the tests will continue, and we've got a whole year of them from the XFL, and any information that we get from them, of course, we'll be talking about it right here on This is the XFL Show. Real quick, guys, before we get to the second part of the cover, too, we do have some social media coming in at XFL Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and the question from one of our loyal followers this week asking all of us, I kind of addressed this with Brian on the bonus episode, who will you be rooting for now that the 8 cities have been announced? So, Jake, it's to you, man. We've got one of our listeners asking, they want to know where does your loyalty lie? Where's your bias with these 8 XFL teams now? Who are you rooting for? Do you have a team yet?
No, I don't have a team yet. It's very simple. I don't know the team colors or the logos of any of these clubs, and that's what I need to know to make.
That's what matters most to you.
Even more important than players.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. How about you, Vince?
I do kind of think that this could be a players' league, in that you need to see whoever your guy is. That's who you're going to be on. I'm not from any of these towns, so I don't have anybody that I'm jumping on right this second. But I think as I hear more, I will latch on to one. I promise you that.
Well, Brian and I already came out as LA fans, especially if they're the LA Extreme again. So you just know this, and if you don't root for our team, then there's going to be some bad blood all of a sudden on the show every week once the season starts in 2020. So you guys have a year basically to come to our side, or pay the consequences. I might have your microphones muted every now and then.
Well, we're gonna have to see what happens.
Maybe I'll become a big fan of their rival, the St. Louis team.
I don't know if that'll be their rival.
That St. Louis-LA rivalry.
Yeah, well, there are some rivalries set up with the cities already naturally because of geography, but we'll get more into that in a little bit. Thanks to listener and follower David, who asked us that question on social media at XFL Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we are going to have a drive, not for one of our social medias, though. We're going to have a kind of a listener drive for our Apple Podcast subscribers coming up. We're trying to blow the show up a little bit more. We're trying to get you more content. And to do that, we need to increase those algorithms. So we're going to have a very exciting giveaway and drive on our Apple Podcast feed. So we're going to give you the details on that coming up. Keep listening. We got plenty left to talk. Like this, our second part of the cover too, guys. And this is, just when you think the madness is over, there's another spring football league, a third one now. And some people are worried this might dilute what the XFL is trying to do. Now you have the AAF, and now we have the FFL, the Freedom Football League, which was announced by Ricky Williams, the former running back out of Texas and NFL. Would you call him an NFL legend? He was pretty good in the NFL. I'd say an NFL legend, not a Hall of Famer. He was on Outside the Lines on ESPN, and Ricky Williams announced the Freedom Football League, guys, a league that is being created and run by more than 50 ex-players, including Ricky Williams, Simeon Rice, Terrell Owens, Jeff Garcia, Dexter Jackson, and Mike Allstott. And the Freedom Football League is going to be for fans and by players, as announced by Ricky Williams. What are your thoughts on the Freedom Football League, Vince? It sounds to me like you might be getting your 7-on-7 league, buddy.
We're going to be getting something here. But, I mean, this just... this is trash, bro. I mean, this is... I can't believe what this is. I mean, this is
Don't hold back.
A sideshow if I've ever seen one. I mean, where is the financial backing here? I mean, yeah, these guys, they were, great players in their own right at some time, and I'm sure they made, some decent money, but they're not a billionaire like Mr. McMahon. I mean, I just don't understand, what this is. I mean, yeah, a 7-on-7 league, I suppose, but, if it's just
That's just speculation, by the way. No one knows the rules or if this is a 7-on-7
I think they have
league.
to hope it's a 7-on-7 league. If it's just another football league, then I just don't see this lasting.
Well, they're really going after, this is the Equality League, the Social Justice League. This is the league,
what does that
for
even
players,
mean?
by players, and for the fans. Jake, they also, and I want to hear Jake's thoughts on this, season ticket holders will be considered part owners of the 10 franchises that they will have in the FFL.
It's probably a necessity. They probably couldn't fund it any other way. And Alan, I mean, you told me about this, and maybe you and Brian can speak a little better about this, but whatever year, there was that California recall for the governor, and just everybody was coming out of the woodwork, throwing their hat in. I think Gary Coleman was on the ballot. Again, this just seems like an issue where everybody and their brothers, throwing their hat into the ring to start a football league. And quite frankly, it's embarrassing. I don't know if this league will ever play a game.
Oh, well. Well, I went to their website. It was I'll say not as polished as the XFL or even the AAF, freedomfootball.co.
Is it hosted by GeoCities?
No, but it is not a .com, it's a .co. The league mission statement is it's quote, here's the quote, to attract football players at their highest level of athletic ability, including those defecting from the NFL, graduating college or high school, or playing in international or alternative professional football leagues. And they're saying all the right things, but it's really hard, especially with what the AAF has presented in terms of technology and what the XFL has presented in terms of Oliver Luck being a part of it, and the capital Vince McMahon has, and of course the success of the WWE. Like Vince said, what these guys, credit to them. This is what they're going after. They're trying to make a league for players, but this just seems like a really hard kind of cause for them to get any backing or support or success out of. But it's football, so I'll have my eyeball on it. And they already have their 10 teams, Vince. Here are the names. I know you love team names. San Diego Warriors, Oklahoma City Power, Portland Progress, Texas Revolution, Ohio Players. There might be some copyright laws involved with that one. Florida Strong, Birmingham Kings, St. Louis Independence, Connecticut Underground, and Oakland Panthers.
Yeah, a lot of different directions there. Not all bad. I'll say that. Texas Revolution, big fan of that. But to me, this league sounds more like a movement or a faction. Like they want to put together like a stable of players that are in another league. I mean, it's just people that all subscribe to the same beliefs that they do.
Very pro wrestling is how you painted it out there.
Vince, if you had to guess a number, how many players do you think are defecting from the NFL? And they're saying no thank you to that contract. I'd like to go play somewhere else.
Well, I think we will see some of those going to the XFL and even the AAF.
Not to this.
Hard to see that.
Is this going to be the Big Three league?
That's what some have equated it to. Is it's a very Big Three-esque, the basketball league that Ice Cube runs.
Although that I actually have seen that on television a little bit, so perhaps we're
like, is this league going to play in the summer maybe, so that people that could play like just all year round,
spring and summer, they did say, so maybe into the later spring and early summer months. Here's a quote from the site on safety being important. Permanent and reliable holistic health and wellness support on and off the field for players. So that translates to me, guys. This is the weed league. This is the players who are mad about getting drug tested, starting their own league so they could smoke weed and play some football. Maybe I'm dumbing it down a little there, but the Freedom Football League throwing their hat into the ring. And here's what it says on the website, real quick, Vince. This is kind of they're not making this subtle at all. Big bold letters on their website when you go to it. Football reimagined, a true alliance between players and fans. going after the other two spring leagues there.
Yeah, basically copying off of the Alliance.
Yeah, you might. I mean, if you're gonna like try to poke fun or maybe puff your chest out the other leagues, don't just blatantly rip off their slogans.
Yeah. Come up with something like "Where the Big Boys Play" or something like that.
This is a movement. Even would be better. I don't know.
I think the best thing, if I could say anything positive about this Freedom Football League, I like their website because you can really interact with some of the big pictures if you hover your mouse over it. And there's also like some nice mouse trails on the homepage.
I was kind of confused. All the big images were moving when I scrolled over them in odd ways. I thought my computer broke. No, hey, good luck to the FFL. We'll keep an eyeball on it. Really hard to imagine their reimagining of football being more exciting than what the XFL's already presented, and I'll even say what the AAF's already doing. So, but another spring league. Question though, one fan did say this on social media real quick. Vince, does this dilute the XFL or the AAF at all?
No, I mean this. I don't, like Jake said. I don't think this is really going to happen. I mean, who's going to sign up to play? I mean, how are they going to pay them?
What if Vince? What if it was just like high school all-star teams? Would you be okay with that?
Oh, absolutely, but that's not going to happen. I mean, if it was some of these guys listed that were actually playing, like in a 7-on-7 league, like if it was essentially like
player coaches,
like a flag football game of the 2008 Pro Bowl. Sign me up. I'll watch it. But if it's T.O. versus Ricky Williams, that's great. But I don't think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean that would be the football equivalent, right, of AI versus Rasheed Wallace in the Big Three. So I'm interested, but not hopeful as much as I am, of course, for the XFL and the AAF. Even let's take it away. That's our cover two. It's time to get to these 8 cities, the Great 8 here, guys. Obviously, we've got a lot to unpack, Jake. Go through each city, their stadium, and what they present as a club thus far. We don't have names. We don't have logos or anything. Those are being worked on. But it's time to talk about, can we call them the original 8, Jake, or should we just stick with Grade 8?
Either way, I think that's correct.
I like to recognize the 2001 XFL, but either way, here we go, breaking down the 8 XFL cities announced this week in this week's Hot Read.
Blue 58! Blue 58! Go! Hey, Ric Flair! Ric Flair! Pepper, Flip, Caliber. Motown, Happy, Jolly, Drunk, Buster, Boomer, Tiger! I think he's got a hound too, Rodney, I think. V-19! V-19, fuck! Hey, Seattle! Where are you? Mars 83! Omaha!
All right, here we go. We have 8 official XFL cities. We talked about them on the bonus episode last week. Obviously, they leaked, but here they are once again for you. Washington, D.C., St. Louis, L.A., New York, Tampa Bay, Seattle, Houston, Dallas. 2020, those will be our 8 XFL cities. They all had their representatives up at the press conference. Cool little video packages as well. Music kind of with the flavor for each city. Jake, did you notice that? Which music and which video package did you dig the most? Did any of those sway you in terms of who you'll root for?
All I can remember is that the gentleman from Tampa, I believe, stole the show because every day is game day. I really like that slogan.
Every day is game day in Tampa Bay. Yeah, that was his. Vince, what did you think of those video packages and the people who represented the cities and stadiums?
I thought it was a good idea. Get everybody familiar with why these cities were chosen, and get a face up there. Whether they may not be the permanent face of the league, but you had somebody up there promoting them.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the bonus episode. Bummer they weren't like celebrity representatives of each city and stadium, but having someone nonetheless is good. Plus, those are the people that actually, did the work to get the XFL to choose these cities.
I mean, it would have hit home more maybe if they would have used a celebrity, but...
Were you hoping that Nelly was going to come out there from St. Louis?
I think that would have been the number one choice there.
Yes.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
And for Houston, who do you go with? Booker T? That would have been the easy choice, at least. I don't know. Well, those are the 8 cities, and now let's go through each one of them real quick. Shall we? Let's start with Washington, D.C. They will play at Audi Field, the new soccer stadium, home of the D.C. United. It's over there in the Navy Yards, they call it there, Vince. Real nice area where the Nationals play, lots to do. And this Audi Field is going to be rocking now with not only D.C. United, who I don't know if they'll have Wayne Rooney again next year, but he certainly was killing it there this year. And now they have American football being played in a 20,000-seat soccer stadium. Jake, what do you think of Washington, D.C., getting a team and their stadium, their venue? What kind of atmosphere do you think they will have?
Well, I like the pick. I don't believe it was one that we selected as a finalist, but it was definitely one that we discussed as a potential site for this. You got a new field. It's not too big. You should be able to, fill it up or fill enough of it up. Like we said before, it's better to turn people away than to, have the cameraman not show that part of the seats.
Any concern with all the colleges and the Ravens and Redskins being in the area already? Do you think the football fans that are that crazy there that spring football will work in D.C.?
Well, it's going to be at a different time of the year, and the Redskins, they're hit or miss. Seems they somehow still have a chance, I believe, at winning that division this year. But it seems like the people in that town, they can turn on that team and not show up very quickly, depending on their performance. So perhaps, like St. Louis, they're looking to adopt another team.
And 20,000 people for American football in that area where people are bloodthirsty for American football. The Redskins stink, and they had that long streak of sellouts, Vince. I don't think D.C. is going to have a problem. I think actually they're going to have a huge advantage playing in that Audi Field.
I agree with you. I don't think it'll be that difficult. And that's something that, is a theme in almost all these cities. Big cities don't have... they almost all of them have NFL teams, so they're not the college atmosphere, that we speculated. It's not. It's kind of like everything stops once the Super Bowl's over and they don't know what to do, and they're thirsty for football. Now they're going to get some here in DC. I think the only thing holding this back is the traffic. Terrible traffic in that area, but you only need 20,000 people there. A lot of people within walking distance.
I was going to say, can you get to the stadium through public transportation?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
That's going to be a big
hop on the metro.
You got it. St. Louis will be playing at the Dome at America Center. We talked a lot about St. Louis, the first team that broke news last week, over a week ago, and they are playing in the former home of the Rams. The Dome holds 67,000 plus, 26-year-old, actual legitimate American football-sized stadium, indoors. Obviously, we talked about the city getting a team, Jake. That's great news. They deserve it. What about the stadium? What about the atmosphere? Do they have an advantage playing in a dome? Is it a disadvantage because it's so big? What are your thoughts on St. Louis?
Well, like I said last week, it is time for St. Louis to show up. They need to pack that dome, and I do think the home opener is going to be big. It's going to be loud in there.
I think this would be the craziest in the first week, February 8th.
I would agree for this place because, and perhaps they have the advantage just out of spite. That their team that they still supported, they packed up and went for Hollywood. And so I expect week one this place to have the loudest crowd and put the most butts in the seats. I don't know if you're going to put 67,000 in them.
I think they could come close in week one, and you know what I'm doing if I'm the league. February 8th, that first game you have in the big primetime slot, you put LA on the road in St. Louis, Vince.
Oh yeah. You want to talk about a rivalry? This is probably the city I got most got my eye on. They were the first announced. We had the gentleman from the news broadcast on our show. You could
Frank
go back,
Cusimano.
Yeah, you could go back in the archives, listen to the interview with him. We've had fans from St. Louis just clamoring for an XFL team.
The XFL came out with Twitter accounts for all the teams, and St. Louis is leading with the most followers.
You know, they're talking a whole lot of yang here, and with the announcement from Mr. Luck that we're going to have very affordable ticket prices, I would expect, you know, with all the talk they're having, that this team can fill up this stadium and really put on a good show, and we're going to find out. I'm challenging them to stand up and fill that barn.
Stand up, St. Louis, in the Dome at America's Center. That is going to be rocking at least week one. We'll see how it sustains. That might just depend on the quality of the play, as we say. Los Angeles playing in the StubHub Center. Jake, home of the LA Galaxy and the LA Chargers. 27,000-person soccer stadium. Not in LA proper, out in Carson, California. Bryant and I have talked about this. He thinks people will go to Carson. I don't like the team playing that far away from LA, even though it's right there. It's still kind of a drive. Everything in LA is a drive, but that's kind of more of a drive. That's a concern for me as an LA fan, too. But what are your thoughts on them playing in a soccer stadium, a place the Chargers cannot fill?
Well, I like them playing in a soccer stadium. I don't know the geography like you two do. You got to remember, there's still not that many legitimate Chargers fans at Chargers home games. You know, the road team usually fills up the rest of those seats, but I think this is going to be close between, you know, Audi Field at DC. It's going to probably be right around that 15,000 mark. I would predict right now.
Marketing campaign right away for the LA team. I'll tell you, you have to stress born in Los Angeles, because the Rams and the Chargers aren't. Or at least these Chargers. They came from
What
San
are the
Diego.
burger shacks like that are near this stadium?
Oh, in Carson, they do have some good burgers and donuts
All
out
right.
there, but that's everywhere in LA.
All right. Well, I think that's going to help.
New York at MetLife Stadium. The New York XFL team will be playing at MetLife, home of the press conference this past week, home of the Jets, home of the Giants, home of WrestleMania, and an 82,500 person football stadium, an elite stadium, if there is one, in the XFL. This is the big daddy of them all. This is a big old barn, and this is going to be tough to come close to those 80. But 20,000 in MetLife. Oliver Luck said 20,000 is the goal for all the teams, really. But what do you think 20,000 at MetLife Stadium for football would look like, Vince? Could they make that look presentable?
You know, 20,000 is really not that much. I mean, even if you tarp the whole upper deck, it's still not going to look great. But like he said, Mr. McMahon likes to think big, and this is thinking big right here. Mr. McMahon would love nothing more than to fill this joint. And I'm not saying he's going to do it, but he's going to try his damnedest to do it. And, you know, I think it's making a statement. We're going to be in the biggest market, and we're going to have the biggest house.
Well, Jake, do you think that them playing in Jersey at MetLife as opposed to one of the soccer stadiums in the city, the reason behind that might be because gambling in New Jersey is legal? It's the only gambling state in the XFL, or city in the XFL.
Yeah, I'm not reading that much into it. I think it's like, you know, like Vince said, you want to get out there, you want to go out and say, we're going to be here in the biggest house that there is. You know, you look for me up on the hill with the bright lights, and that's where I'll be. Now, if I'm the XFL, I think I do want to be strategic about this one. I want to have that February 8th. I want to have this game in MetLife Stadium. Maybe they need to have a fan fest or something to bring people in, because short of a super kick party, it's going to be very difficult to put a lot of people in this. But that's why, you have people out. You have inflatable slides, something for the kids to throw footballs at targets. Maybe a 2-for-1. I don't know, but out of all the places, this one is going to be the most difficult to put enough people in, just ratio-wise, for how big it is.
That's the tough thing about going big. I mean, there is going too big, but you got to be in New York, New Jersey area for sure. A lot of people upset, I saw on social media, that it wasn't in even Yankee Stadium or one of the soccer stadiums, but a great partnership Vince McMahon has with MetLife Stadium. So they'll do it world class. Just hopefully people make it there to support that team. Tampa Bay will play at Raymond James Stadium, home of the Bucks, the USF Bulls, multiple Super Bowls. 22-year-old stadium holds 66,000, a traditional American football stadium. I love that building, Vince. I've been there for a Super Bowl, and I think this will it might be tough to fill. The Bucks even have trouble giving away tickets to get people to go watch there, but you could have fun in the Tampa Bay area.
No doubt about that, but also don't rule out all the snowbirds. They're going to be down in Tampa during the month of February.
A lot of New York accents at Tampa Bay XFL team.
Yeah, so they may be they may attract some fans there. It is a big stadium, no doubt about that. It's going to be tough, but I could see this one working. I really could.
Jake, your thoughts on Tampa Bay playing in Raymond James Stadium?
I don't know if I see, Frank telling Ethel, come on, get into Cadillac. We got to go see this new football league here. But, it's a possibility, whatever you got to do.
Yeah, I sounds to me, Jake, like you have the lowest expectations for the Tampa Bay team.
Well, I don't know if I have the lowest expectations for them. It's too early to say, but you do have an NFL-sized stadium here, and it's going to be difficult to put a lot of people in there. I think New York will put more in it, although there are more seats.
If you're good, Tampa Bay will support you, I have a feeling. Seattle playing at CenturyLink Field, home of the Sounders, home of the Seahawks. When those teams are good, it's crazy at that stadium. 72,000 it holds. Soccer even gets 40-something thousand usually. 16-year-old stadium, beautiful place in Seattle, Washington. Vince, how do you think the XFL will fare? Do you think they'll have that Seattle Sounders atmosphere?
I think it will. Seattle, a quirky town. We talked about them. They like all the weird off-the-wall stuff. This is something that they're going to get behind there, Seattle.
Jake, what do you think of Seattle playing in the home of the Seahawks and the Sounders? Do you think all that enthusiasm, the loud stadium, will keep echoing when the XFL takes the field?
Yeah, I do. I really think it could, but I think that the Sounders, they need to have a clear partnership. And, this is something they talked about at the conference. We're not just renting somewhere to play. Somewhere to play. We want to move in here. We want to form a relationship with the current tenants and also the town. So, yeah, I think if the Sounders, get involved with them here, like Vince said, a lot of, dare I say, hipsters out there that I think will support this.
Well, I think Seattle's going to have the support, but I just want to make it clear right now. They're our rivals, and I'm gonna bash them at every opportunity. Vince, the Seattle team could go to hell. No, I'm kidding.
Them for good attendance, though.
Yeah, pushing for good attendance, but Seattle and LA expecting some great games in 2020. Houston playing at This is the surprise. We didn't know where they'd play. We knew the city. TD-ECU Stadium, home of the Houston Cougars. Vince, that holds 40,000. A college football stadium, a new one, opened in 2014, home of the XFL Houston.
Is it on the campus of University of Houston?
TD-ECU Stadium, I believe so.
Okay. Interesting setup there, but a nice stadium. This is the kind of size for a stadium I think that they're looking for. I think if they could have every stadium be around this size, I think they would do that. Houston, big market, love their football there. I don't see any problem with them being able to do well in this market.
Vince, would you hold a student rush night or have student sections in this stadium?
Absolutely. This is, the University of Houston, has had some good ball clubs recently, but you never quite got over the hump, got to the big bowl game that they were expecting. But now maybe this XFL team's going to fill that void. I
think Houston, Texas, any stadium they were going to play in there, they're going to get the love This is very interesting because it's college kids are now going to have easy access to this team. Look out for that atmosphere. That could be the sneaky, really good one in the league. Dallas, finally here, guys. They're playing at Globe Life Park, a.k.a. the ballpark at Arlington, a.k.a. the soon-to-be former home of the Texas Rangers, who are going to move to Globe Life Field, which is all a part of kind of the same complex, and really revolutionary. Bryant actually tweeted out a great article written about it, how they are trying to not, leave this stadium, this current park, and leave it like the Astrodome or Silverdome and leave it decrepit and just to do nothing. They're going to renovate Globe Life Park, and they're going to renovate it for the XFL, and that's where that team's going to play. It holds 48,000. It's going to be renovated to maybe hold more. We'll see. It opened in 1994, so it's not that old, and I think a perfect place for an XFL team. What a great story, too, and it could actually set the standard for future cities to, repurpose already useful stadiums.
Yeah, it's a smart idea. I'm interested to see how they set it up for football as opposed to baseball. From my memory of this area, there is a lot going on in this neck of the woods in Dallas. So it's an entertainment destination, and I think they're going to do well. Dallas, just like Houston, crazy for their football, looking for something big to do during the spring. I think this is what it's all about.
Jake, when it comes to Dallas repurposing a baseball field for football, do you think this innovative idea will actually work? And is it a useful way of maintaining operations of a vacated stadium?
It's football in the state of Texas. I think that answers my question.
I think that's all you need to say, and that's all we have to say on the 8 cities. Let us know what you think about each of them, who you think has an advantage when it comes to their stadium and the selection and what they got going on with everything so far. We don't have team names or logos yet, which, real quick, rapid fire, I know I'm springing this on you guys, and we're running out of time. Jake, off the top of your head, please don't think too much about it, but you tell me, I'm going to give you a city, the cities, and you tell me the first name you think that team should have based on everything you know about them so far.
All right. Well, you're putting me on the spot. Let's see what happens here. Fast money.
Fast money. We're going to go through all 8. Vince, you hang tight. We're going to do it with you as well. First up, Jake, Washington, D.C.
The Washington Monuments.
All right, I like it. You can do a lot there. St. Louis.
Scoundrels.
Scoundrels. People in St. Louis are nice. L.A.
Hey, I only had a couple seconds to think about this. L.A., it didn't work out the first time, but I think it can work out the second time. The L.A. Kiss.
Talk about finding a true partnership. Good luck negotiating with Gene Simmons. New York.
I actually thought about this one on the press conference. The New York Empire.
Cool. What about Tampa Bay?
Tampa Bay Talons, let's say.
Seattle.
It's going to be something where the logo's green. Seattle, how about the Seattle Sonic? Bringing that back.
Just drop the S for copyright purposes. Houston, Texas.
The Houston Hype.
I love it. Dallas.
And the Dallas Sheriffs.
Oh,
that's the list.
Yeah, really, really good. Look at Jake did it, Vince. You should be able to. We're going to run through them off the top of your head. First team name you think of for the new XFL franchise in each city, starting with DC.
DC? Oh, my goodness.
Clock's ticking. No more than 2 seconds.
The Bills.
Yeah, I'm just a Bill. All right, it makes sense. St. Louis.
Prefer the Williams, but that's good too.
St. Louis.
The Lose.
L.A.
Gotta go L.A. Extreme.
New York.
Oh man, New York. The Speed.
Tampa Bay. Speed.
Tampa Bay Yellowfins.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with Grouper.
Maybe Landstork.
Seattle.
Oh, there got to be the Salmon.
Houston.
The Steers.
And Dallas.
Dallas Freebirds.
Oh, I like it. All right.
When those fighting salmon hit the field and start blasting Metallica, look out!
I can't wait for salmon versus grouper. Those are good. Well, everybody has their team names. They're all on social media. That's like the biggest debate going, of course. And the XFL has said that they're speaking with local creative services and artists and all sorts of people in each market to determine those team names. We don't know if votes will be put up for us to, have our say, but hey, that league's listening, right, Vince? So
I can't stress that enough. If you live in one of these cities and you have an idea for what the team name should be, do not hesitate to contact, Oliver Luck himself and tell him, what your idea is, because they are listening.
Or, a really good way to be heard is actually to call our XFL fan line, because when they're listening to you on social media. They're listening to this show. So call in 724-565-4XFL. Be heard with your suggestions. And though you heard Vincent Jakes there, that's it. I think we could wrap up the hot read now.
Well, Alan, you put us on the spot here for our team names. So we're going to have to, put you on the spot. So who you got for this Washington club?
I have to do it too. I made this.
Everybody has to do it.
Crooks.
St. Louis.
Gatekeepers.
Oh, that's a good one. L.A.
Extreme. You gotta go. They're the defending champs. Come on.
New York.
Skyscrapers.
Tampa.
Why not keep the old USFL Tampa Bay Bandits? They were cool.
The Seattle Club.
The logo could just be Burt Reynolds' mustache.
Who do you got for Seattle?
Oh, man, I don't know. They got the Space Needle? The Needlers.
Houston.
Tycoons.
And Dallas.
Propane.
We'll have to see.
I don't know about any of those. I like DC Crooks and LA Extreme are my favorite there, I guess. All right, there's your hot read, everybody. It's hard to come up with names, so the XFL does not have an easy task coming up with these 8. Very important, but keep letting them hear you on social media. We got people like our buddy Jason Stem who made our awesome logo, our new show logo. He's firing up all sorts of logos, sending them the XFL's way. Who knows? Maybe they use one of those. You never know. It's a nude league. We're building it from scratch, and they're listening to us. That's the show, though. Guys, I think, I can't forget, Jake, you're right. We got the giveaway. You said the big giveaway we got. We got the swag bags. Okay, here's how it's going to work. As we get out of here today, this is going to be an Apple Podcast Drive / giveaway. Here's how it works for all of you. All you have to do is subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, now it's called. So you could do it on your computer. You could do it on your phone. You subscribe and you leave a review. And when you leave a review, that helps our algorithms, boost the visibility of the show and the XFL. But it also will enter you to win one of those cool swag bags you saw Vince open up on YouTube. That was a great idea Jake had before the show, Vince. You think that's... I know we got the extra swag bags. You didn't... You're cool giving them one away to a listener instead of keeping an extra one for yourself,
I think
right?
we should, because, this league is for the fans, and that's what we want to do. We want to give back to them.
So that's what we're going to do. Oh, sorry,
yes,
Jake,
go ahead. I was going to say, whenever you're leaving that review, make sure you leave your Twitter handle, your Instagram handle, some way for us to contact you whenever we have this drawing.
Yeah. Just leave a social media handle, maybe an email if you want on the review itself, and that way we know when we draw our winner next week who to contact. We'll announce the winner next week on our social media at XFL Show, as well as on the program here. And that's as simple as that. All you have to do is to go to your Apple Podcast app, subscribe to the show, leave a review. Boom, you're entered in the next week to win one of those cool XFL swag bags. And if you want to know what's in the bags, go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/XFL Show, and you can watch Vince open his up. He got one too. And Vince, what was your favorite item in the swag bag?
Oh my goodness. it's got to be that XFL t-shirt. It's just so comfortable.
It is. It's pretty nice. I got one myself, but I don't know if you can go wrong with magnets, Jake. They're really good, especially if you're in your 30s and you're getting, like, a lot of friends are getting married. Great to put those invites up on the refrigerator with that magnet.
Oh, that and all the Christmas cards coming into people's mailboxes right now.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. It's all in that swag bag. And remember, the way for you to win one or enter to win one is to follow us, subscribe on Apple Podcast or iTunes, and leave a review. Anyone who leaves reviews entered to win. It's that simple. Without further ado, though, that's the end of the show, unless you got anything else, Vince, breaking news or anything.
All I got to say is they're listening.
Yes, they are. Jake, anything until next week, man?
Let's see what happens with those Seattle Salmon.
All right, everybody, for Jake and Vince, and, Bryant couldn't make it on this show, but check out the bonus show he did. Follow us, XFL Show, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the website. This is the XFL Show. .com. I'm Alan. Thanks for listening, everybody. More football talk next week. Football Sundays, 7 a.m. Subscribe!